Okay. So let's take the core of Libromancer. I'm gonna clear. What's the core of Libromancer?
So that would be fire the fire the fire engine the fire engine, wouldn't it, bro? Just to confirm.
You're gonna want, I believe it's 3 geek and 3 fire for your non-ritual cards.
Do we need Libromancer agent at all?
It's a one of,
Mm,
and I think
okay.
the new girl is also a one of.
Okay. I know one Doom Broker for sure for the rituals. Um, anything else in the rituals?
Give me 1 second. I gotta look up their names real quick because I do not remember in the slightest.
In this
If you want, I can. If you want, you can just say what their effect, and I can get the name.
um uh give me 1 second. What I'm looking at with this as a guide, I noticed that they only use Doom Broker for the rituals, so that's still questionable, I guess. Fire
Well,
burst.
Doombroker,
Oh, go ahead.
I know Doombreaker can get you to your traps. Um,
Yeah.
excuse me, sorry. The other, I think, like level 6 one, um, that is like a purely going second card.
Level 7.
Oh,
Yeah, I think it's Fire Starter. Not
yeah.
Fire Starter,
Fire burst.
No, fire burst.
Fire Burst. That's a purely going second card because he can attack twice. He doubles damage dealt to your opponents and gains attack when he attacks, something like that. So that's like a purely going second card for him. Um, so I wouldn't really suggest running that. Uh,
Okay.
Doombroker is definitely the one you do want to run from Mikonkos. I don't think Fire Starter is all that good either.
What about Misty Girl? Misty Girl says, you can ritual summon this card with a Libromancer card. If this card is ritual summoned by using a monster or monsters on the field, your opponent cannot target ritual monsters you control with monster effects. If this card is special summon, you can target one face-up monster your opponent controls until the end of this turn. Change its attack to 0, also negate its effect.
Read that last part again.
If this card is special summoned, you can target one face-up monster your opponent controls until the end of this turn. Change its attack to 0. Also negate its effects.
Level 4.
Yeah, it sounds like it would just be a going second card too.
That's definitely going second card, but that would also hurt into the Mikanko line because you want your opponent to have something that you can hit them with to deal damage to them.
Yeah.
Um, actually, put Geek Boy to 2.
Geek Boy to 2? Okay.
Yeah,
Why?
it's the level 3. Okay, so Fire you want better because when it's special summon, it can add any of the Libra monsters from your deck to your hand.
Right.
And you can special summon him by revealing a ritual monster, which is not hard for that deck to do.
Yeah.
So what Geek Boy will do is Geek Boy also reveals one in special from your hand, and then you can add a Libromancer spell. Um, you kind of want the level 4 more over him because the level 4 can then search him, and then it can go. Then he can go find the spell, and that could be any of your Libromancer spells. It could be your field spell, it could be your continuous, it could be any of your ritual cards.
Geek
It's
Boy
essentially
is also
it's essentially
psychic.
yeah, but it's also minimizing your chance of breaking on multiple cards of that
Oh,
nature.
yeah.
You definitely your normal summon you want in the deck is going to be Diviner the Herald. That's like the major normal summon you want in your deck.
Right. Okay. Um So I'm looking at, or I was looking at the the guide build, and I noticed for Libromancer spells, they just, as far as I can tell, they're running the continuous origin story, and then the Libromancer field spell at 2.
Yeah,
That sounds right.
yeah. Because
Okay.
we're doing a mixed build. We're not doing pure.
Right.
And
Mhm.
then you want uh the Libromancer trap. I think it's the first one on the list there.
Intervention.
Like,
When your opponent activates a card or effect, target one Libromancer ritual monster you control, return it in the hand, and if you do negate the effect, then you can special summon one Libromancer monster from your hand or graveyard. Yep, that one.
yeah. You want that. That's the trap you want to set. That is the interaction piece that you can have as a player.
What about Libromancer displaced?
I was going to ask about prevented
Oh,
more
were
so.
you?
Yeah.
If you control a Libromancer monster, you can target one face-up monster your opponent controls. This turn, that face-up monster cannot be used for a material for a fusion, synchro, Xyz, or link summon.
So that this is going to sound ridiculous because those are very important mechanics in the game right now. That is still a side deck card, because there are still some decks that can play around that ability.
Okay.
Because some decks can do 2 to 3 of the summon mechanics in your extra deck. So you shut them off of link summoning, well then they'll synchro summon or they'll XYZ summon. You shut them off of, like, that card is very good against branded and chimera based decks that do a lot of fusion summoning, because then that really hurts them in that scenario. And there are certain decks that are link heavy that that will be very good against them. But then there are other decks in the format that can kind of play around that. Like, truthfully, that can kind of hurt the new Snake Eyes deck because that's kind of a link heavy deck. But you got to hit them in the right spot. So while the card is still fairly strong, it is also a card I would recommend putting in your side deck if you want to run it at all.
Hey, what? So are you choosing when it comes to prevented? Are you forced to choose? Because the wording makes it sound like it just you just can't use it. Period.
Let me double check. Let me pull up the card myself here. Just I'm not telling you wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you target what monster they control, and so for that turn, that monster can't be used for it. So while, like I said, while that card is good, that's also a card that you have to be careful when you pick the monster and how you pick it. Because if you pick the wrong monster, then they can still play around it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying too. It also would be one of those things where because I have a rule, kind of, like you don't want to add, usually archetype specific cards that goes with the archetype in your side deck, but I feel like Prevented breaks that rule, like the exception to my rule.
So while that is a good rule to have, sometimes when you have archetype specific cards that you have access to getting into with relative ease that won't become a hindrance, sometimes it is okay to go around that rule.
Yeah, and
And since
that's one of
Doombroker
them.
since Doombroker can just set it from your deck to the field, then that's still a pretty good card to have as a backup arsenal piece.
Okay. And then my question is displaced, because the other deck that we're using as a guide runs it. I'm not sure if it's necessary, but I want your opinion because I don't know much about Libromancer myself.
Um, so Displaced is actually a snatch steal.
Oh,
So you'll set it off Doombroker or something along that nature, and then when they summon a monster or an extract monster or something along this nature, you target it in your Libromancer monster. You return your monster to your hand, and you take control of your opponent's monsters. However, if your monster was Doombroker, the monster you take goes back to their hand at the end of turn. So if you take an extract monster, it's go back to the extra deck. If you take their normal summon and they can't do anything else outside that normal summon, then their normal summon goes back to their hand, which sucks, depending
Right.
on like what your follow up is.
Yeah.
But it's still a snatch steal effect for the turn. And if they have any kind of interaction, then you're forcing them to use their interaction to remove their monsters,
Mm-hmm.
so you don't take it.
So I just put
So
one in
I
the...
would recommend, yeah,
I just did it.
yeah.
And then obviously 3 Diviner, because Diviner is like
Busted.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dedicated normal summon. For Mikanko, I have a little bit of knowledge in that department now. Namely thanks to Chara and helping him out. The trap lineup, I get a little iffy on. One of them is good, and I can't ever remember which one it is. But for the monster lineup, I'm gonna go with what you said, which is fairly true to that statement, where you just run one of each. I'm gonna do this.
You mostly want one red and one blue. The wind one you don't need as much.
No, but it is still nice to have. It's one of those ones that's nice to have. And then 2 Ohime, because Ohime is
Hi, fat boy. Are you gracing me with your presence?
I thought you were calling me fat boy. I'm like, wait, what?
Buddy, don't stand there. You're gonna fall.
Yeah.
Oh, he went to the window.
Since you're not highly focused on the Mikanko engine, Ohime being at 2 should be fine, because it is a card that you want to see in your hand, but it is not 100% necessary to see in your hand. And if you draw into 2, then you basically have discard photo. So 2, I think, would be the bread and butter for the Ohime for the engine. And
That's
then,
fair enough.
Yeah.
And then Mikanko Ceremony, well, let's be honest with you, just 1 copy is all you really need. Just a special summon another Mikanko in your hand. It has another thing where you can banish it to send another Mikanko from your deck to the graveyard, but I don't know how often you're going to use that per se, but at least it says card and not monster, so you can send one of your equipped spells to the graveyard too.
No, there are points where I've used Mikanko Legends graveyard effect, even against you for that matter.
Yeah. It's not often, but it is something to be used. It is an optional thing. And then you were right with RBs, but we're gonna run 2 RBs, so we're not focused on it. And then 1 Rondo. Since this card has a good going second effect, and I believe it has a graveyard effect.
Is Rondo's the which one?
Rondo is the one where
that's a one of. That's a one of, and the one with the fire chick on it's like a one of too.
Yeah, the fire dance. That's the card that you search off of with RB's combo.
Okay,
yeah,
so
Arby's is like the better one to use.
Yeah. So question, what about Maya Washidori to be able to easily or Maya Washidori, the new one, the wind one,
the what?
The wind one, the wind equip spell.
Oh,
Maya Washidori. No, not Hewley. Maya Washidori on the.
I'm already over it. You're seeing a delayed reaction, dude.
So
my bad.
That card is good. However, it's one of the cards that wants to trigger when a Mikanko monster battles.
Yeah.
So pretty much at this point, whenever you're battling with the Mikanko cards, you've already pretty much got it to a point where you're just going to be getting in your damage, regardless of what's going on. If you really want to run it because you're scared of something your opponent's going to do, there's not many battle traps in the format, if any, unless you're playing against someone that's randomly deciding to play them. And at most, if you're bouncing something, unless it's something that you control, there's a chance you're giving your opponent an extra resource. Because depending on what you're playing against, a lot of field spells in the game are pretty good for their archetype exclusive. So if you bounce a field spell and you don't kill them, then they get access to another free surge or free engine piece or something along that nature.
No, that actually wasn't the reason why it went through my mind. It was because of the graveyard effect that went through my mind.
If
The
this
To
card is
graveyard
in your
effect.
just
graveyard, target one Mikanko monster in your graveyard special summon it, and if you do, equip it to this card. Well, I mean, it does go into
That's a lot
unison with
better.
ceremony.
It's a lot better when you have a higher Mikanko count in your main deck instead of the 5 monster count that we do have at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Because you got to look at it this way: you cannot special summon Ohime with that card effect because it was not properly ritual summoned. So at this point, you're banking on one of
yeah,
your
that's the point.
3 main deck monsters to get put into the graveyard in order to bring it back. So
I
since we're not using a higher monster count, and the Mikanko is essentially the sub engine of this deck, despite it being the way that you're going to kind of push damage, it's not completely an added bonus just for that fact alone.
I would think that you would be much better off with the Monster Reborn that you had in your build.
Fair enough.
Because
What the reason? Well, it went through my like because of Legend. That's why I'm like, maybe.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's all.
And going
Well,
off of the other one, they are running it too. But I also kind of agree that it is not, because they're also running Mayowashi as well. But like I agree. Like I'm gonna repeat myself like a couple of times. And I apologize for that. Um, the count definitely plays a huge factor, and if you can run something else that does what the effect that you're going for better, then I would run that over Mayowashi, which is in this case Monster Reborn.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, I'm gonna just the yeah, because the one thing that might end up as a struggle is finding is finding quick spells for the Makanko's Monster Reborn. If I had Monster Reborn or Makanko.
Yeah, and even then, you can just use Monster Reborn for anything else, like Libromancers.
Right.
So
or you can even steal your opponent's cards and use them.
yeah.
Right.
And I got reminded on which Mikanko card that you run, but considering the format, I don't know, because you're only again running only 5 Mikanko cards, and I don't think it's easily searchable. It's Mikanko Rivalry. If you control a Mikanko monster, target one face-up monster on the field, equip it with one equip spell from your deck that can equip it. If an equip spell is sent to your graveyard while this card is in your graveyard, you can banish this card, then target one equip spell from your graveyard, add it to your hand. Now,
Okay. Well,
that will probably get sent for the graveyard effect by ceremony, just so that you can continue reusing Mikanko equip spells. But the first effect is at your leisure, I would say, I guess, because you're not always going to have a Mikanko card.
yeah, no, that I remember in the in the one that I'm looking at that because I'm looking at your stream and I'm looking at the original version.
Mm-hmm.
The one that I'm looking at, I wasn't running rivalry because Spirit Wall because I didn't see a reason to, but I was running rivalry back when I was back when I made the Inferno Makanko. So yeah, I understand that.
Yeah. Um, and then let me go back to your build real quick. If I could find it again. Here it is. One thing I've noticed Um, is if you look in this build from your ritual stuff, you weren't running Ben 10.
Yeah, no, you know, that was something that completely blanked on my mind because I'm gonna be completely honest. I built this deck in a rush, but it completely blanked on my mind when I was building it.
Mm-hmm. So I would run 2 Ben 10, I guess. Because, I mean, you can use it to tribute, or use it as a tribute material for Doombreaker.
So
Thanks, Steven.
you would like
You're welcome.
at best to do 1 Benten and 3 preparation of rites.
Mm-hmm.
Because the 1 Benten can get you to your diviner to initiate other plays.
Ah, yes, that is true. There's also the fact that because Ohime is a fairy, you can just, add that.
You can also add you
Yeah.
can also add Ohime if you already have a Benten in your
Mm-hmm. Did you say preparation of rights or pre-preparation of rights?
preparation. You want preparation. It's much better in this deck.
Okay. I just want to make sure I heard you correctly. I'm listening, I swear. God damn.
I only slightly believe you.
Yeah, just slightly.
Also, emergency teleport is a thing, and while I might get some hate or some disagreement, I would run 3 copies
I was gonna
for
recommend
Decoy and then Dooley.
I was gonna recommend emergency teleport next.
Okay, so we're on the same page.
Yeah. Because you want like 3 E-Tele because it can get 2 of the cards to get you into an engine. Honestly, if we're running preparation, we could probably afford to put Diviner down to 2, just because we would search out a Ben 10. The Ben 10 getting tribute can go get us the Diviner. Because
I would still
Ohime and well, Diviner and Ohime are the only targets for Ben 10 in the deck. So right now we only have 4 to 5 targets for the 1 Ben 10. So we could still keep Diviner at 3. That'd be fine.
Yeah.
But
I was gonna
that's the only targets.
Yeah, I was just gonna keep Diviner at 3 just to see how it, for your sake, Blazin, just to see how it goes. And then now we have like 5 slots to use in the main deck.
Well, if I may, because this card is kind of a pet card, but it's also a really good card because of how the format's going.
Uh-huh.
I would recommend Talents
Oh.
and probably like a 2 of, because
Yeah.
if your opponent does anything on your turn, you can take a monster, you can put a card out of their hand, or you can draw 2 cards.
I do like talents.
Or you could always just put like one of the pot cards in there, because I don't think you're really drawing many cards, and your extra deck is kind of mute. So it's not like your extra deck matters either. You could, if you don't want to try talents and you can get any of the pot card, you can try using the pot card. Choice is really yours. You're not limited to doing just one thing.
Yeah. Or you can just run both. I mean, I've done both,
So
but like it's a little.
why I think running both would be good. I personally dislike it because what if you talents decide to draw 2 cards and you draw into a pot card? Now one of those cards you drew is definitely dead. Or if you activate the pot card, the only effect you get off talents now is steal one of your opponent's monsters or to rip a card out of their hand. And if you're going first, unless your hand is amazing, you always usually want to draw 2 cards, because like if your hand is amazing, then you can afford to take a card out of your opponent's hand, rip it, and keep playing. Otherwise, you want to draw 2 cards to get into more engine, into more combo pieces to keep trying to play.
This is
Okay.
how I try to validate one or the other if I have to. Is am I fearful of what my opponent might have in their hand? If that answer is yes, I'll use talents. If I'm not fearful and I think I can play with whatever play around whatever my opponent could have in their hand with the deck that I'm playing, then I would go pots. That's how I kind of go with it.
So personally, I personally, I I don't play talents in any deck because of a personal thing. I don't like talents, even though it like plays into my entire thing of hey, I play off of what you do. It plays too much off of what they do in my is how I feel about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
It's
that's
a weird thing of me,
understandable.
and I yeah, that and I much prefer pot in instead of talents.
Talents is definitely a card that it's very good when it's in your hand and it's live, but it's also very bad in your hand and it's not live.
Yeah,
So there's
I've ran into
so
that problem a couple of times.
it's whether you like the fact that you know that if it becomes live, you're going to benefit off of it, or it also falls into the fact that if you don't think it's going to become alive into a certain matchup, then it's going to be bad, which is understandable from both points.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think the idea is if it's not live, great. Then you're uninterrupted and your deck can do exactly what it wants. So that shouldn't be too much of an issue, right?
That's exactly how it goes. Like the cards in your hand, like you have your whole. We'll put it this way: it's like you have like 1 to 2 combo pieces and you're ready to go, and then you have talents. If they don't have a way to interrupt or interact with you, then those 1 2 cards is going to get you to where you need to go, completely uninterrupted, and you're gonna feel satisfied. But then you have that one dead card in your hand that is going to feel bad. On the other hand, let's say they interact with like an Ash Blossom or a Effect Veil or something. Then now that talents provide an additional resource to you because you can now draw into more cards to keep trying to play.
Yeah.
So it's a double edged sword. Sometimes it's amazing, sometimes it's not amazing. If you main deck it and it didn't perform at all for you, then you know you have 2 cards you can immediately side out. Or vice versa. You can side into talents if your opponent's playing a crap ton of hand traps and you can side out your pot of prosperities. It's one of those things where if you want to use talents and you don't like it in your main deck, then you side it. But if you want to use Pot of Prosperity, you never side Pot of Prosperity. You're always going to keep that card in your main deck, and it's either going to stay in your main deck or it gets sided out for something else. That is typically how this would go.
I also used to run Pot of Past Prosperity at 3. But lately I've been feeling like it needs to be at 2 rather than 3.
Will you?
Because by the time
It's one of those.
go ahead. I'm gonna let
Okay,
you say your bit.
okay. It's definitely one of those cards that it feels bad seeing multiple of it, but it's also one of those cards because of how good and powerful it is because it lets you dig 3 to 6 cards to your deck to find a card that you need to help get you to a combo piece or engine or some kind of way to protect yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely a card you want to max out at 3, even though if you draw another one and you don't use it because you want to use the cards that left in your extra deck, it's always there as a way to potentially always dig at minimum 9 cards into your deck or
Mm-hmm.
12 cards into your deck and you just never use the third one. So I understand that point because I also don't like seeing multiple of it when I ran it. But it is a card that, even in multiples, is still a very good card because then
Mm-hmm.
that's your follow up for your next turn. It allows you to dig deeper again. It, it's it's one of the it's a very powerful card that's a hard one to return, and you hate drawing multiple hard ones returns.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it's still a card that still facilitates combo pieces or board breaker cards if you're going second and you decided in board breaker cards. It helps you get to those cards. It helps you dig deep enough into your deck to help you get to something that you could potentially use or that you need.
I have a counterpoint of view. Um, that if everything goes right, and that's still a big if everything goes right and you're starting to go with a longer game, by the time you end up getting a third Pot of Prosperity, you're already resource given. You don't have as much cards in your extra deck, and there's a chance that you're not even going to use it. So, it becomes a dead card at that point. So while your
Oh,
point of view is or your logic is correct, I feel like that one is also equally as correct, and it's kind of hard to decide officially 2 or 3 overall with
Well,
both points in
I
mind.
well in this scenario, I would base whether 2 or 3 based on whether or not the deck has an active way of getting rid of it from your hand. In which this deck does have ways of getting rid of it from the hand. So I would say that it's worth running at 3 due to the fact that if it does end up in the hand as a deck card, I can still use the card to discard.
Okay, so
You know what I'm saying?
so would you want to run 3 in this deck?
In this scenario, yes.
Okay, we'll put 3 in the deck then.
Like, uh, and one of the things is that even though in different decks like my Marincess, for example, I would prefer running Desires due to the fact that the main deck is the biggest factor of this. I
Mhm.
can't. I agree that that Prosperity is a better choice here due to the fact that I can't just get rid of cards out of the main deck for no reason. For
Um, yeah.
not no reason, but you get my point.
And you're also not running a whole lot of 3-ofs, so Pot of Desires would just straight up hurt anyways.
Exactly.
Yes, Pod Desires would actually obliterate this deck. I do not recommend. One thing I do recommend though, because we do have 2 slots left, is definitely a Call by the Grave. Call by the Grave is never going to be a dead card for you. It can rip hand traps. It can hit a card that could be scary in your opponent's graveyard. I'm going to use the Snake Eyes Fire King deck, for example. A Call by the Grave can rip the Princess out of the graveyard, and I'm telling you, Princess is a very good card for them to have in their graveyard. So Call by Grave is just overall a very solid card to keep in your deck no matter what. It will almost never not have a use. It's a very good card.
I'm inclined to agree with that.
I am also inclined to agree with that as well. In fact, I still main deck it to this day. Oh, hush it, Steven.
Steven sounds like he's the type of person who doesn't run Call by the Grave and loses to an Ash Blossom.
What?
I mean, what?
He sounds like the person that doesn't run Call by the Grave but runs into 3 Ash Blossoms back to back.
Steven also is the same person that will play GOAT format and still lose. I mean, hi, Steven.
Wow.
No!
Hi, Steven.
He left! I was joking!
He-
Oh.
Steven, to make you feel any better, Tori loses GOAT format too.
I do not.
To me, you do.
Excuse me?
Shut up.
If I recall, my zombie deck did work on you last time we played GOAT.
What did I play?
I don't remember. I just remembered I did a lot better than I expected with zombies.
I if it was the reasoning gate, that makes sense because that deck is really hard to pilot.
Yeah.
I think it
Max
was.
Evident.
That sounds
Yeah.
familiar.
Yeah. Ever since I played Rescue Cat, while that is relatively hard to pilot, it is still a very more consistent and powerful deck.
Honestly, okay, looking at the list right now, going back to the list real quick, because we're only running a 1 Doombroker, I think we might actually want to bump Agent up to 2, because if Doombroker hits the graveyard, Agent can get the Doombroker.
Okay. Can I point out that this deck has 0 hand traps?
So that is because we're using the Mikanko engine. We can definitely incorporate hand traps. However, we will probably have to cut things like Pod Prosperity.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I don't want to cut it, the Monster Reborn have to get cut, and probably 1 or 2 of our traps. So we'd have to go down to 1 trap, and we have to pick which trap we'd want.
There's also a bonus side. We do have full access to our side deck, so we could put the hand traps in there.
This is true.
Yeah.
Truthfully speaking, there's only, depending on like how you want to play it, Imperm, Nibiru, and Droll are like arguably the best hand traps in the current format. Ash Blossom is always going to be a good hand trap, but depending on the
It's
decks you face, it doesn't always perform the best.
yeah, and I
Yeah.
would say for overall, Ash Blossom is probably better in the main deck or not at all because of how generalized it is.
Yeah. Like for me, I don't use Ash Blossom in my deck at all. In fact, the only quote unquote hand traps I'm using is Nib and Imperm in my deck right now.
And I was about to say maybe 2 nib, 1 imperm in the side was what I was thinking.
Well,
No.
you don't want to do one of an Imperm, because
It's a card that you want to sit in
okay,
your hand.
yeah, in retrospect, one Imperm is never going to do anything for you. We'll put it this way: say you have a 40 card deck, and you have a one of that you have no way to search or to do anything with it. The percentage of you drawing that one card in your opening hand or the 6th card for your turn, because you only have one of it, is going to be incredibly low. And it's just going to come up to the point where you do see it, it's either going to be useless. It doesn't help you at the current point you're at because you could have used it earlier,
Mm-hmm.
or it's going to be a dead draw.
Gotcha.
So this is how I would do with the sides since we're seemingly skipping the extra. For now, I would do 2 Nibiru, 3 Droll of your card art choosing. It doesn't matter, and then
3
3
super
Imperm.
poly.
Did you just say 3 Super Poly?
Yes, I can explain why if you want, but super poly is a very strong card in this current.
Would he have enough room in the side deck for everything else?
What?
Would he still have enough room in the side deck for everything else?
What is everything else you want to put in?
Maybe some back row hate.
Okay, so in that case, you take out the Imperms.
Okay.
Just for the simple fact that siding Imperm is not going to be really beneficial.
That's fair.
And in that case, you are better off siding 2 to 3 nibs, 2 to 3 drools, 2 to 3 super polys, evenly matches in quantum cyclones, kind of.
I can see Cosmic Cyclone. Working. Because they do have some graveyard advantage. Or no, am I thinking of something else?
You're thinking of something else.
Yeah.
But the reason why I'm saying cosmic cyclones, once again, I'm going from my perspective of what I play against locally every week. Cosmic Cyclone can hit the Centurion field spell if you ever play against any Centurion players. Cosmic
Oof.
Cyclone hits the Fire King field spell, and they cannot protect the Fire King's field spell from Cosmic Cyclone like they can Harpy Feather Duster. So one Cosmic Cyclone against a Fire King board, and they have the field spell, blows up their entire board.
I like running Harpy Feathers Duster in the side. This is just me personally. In case, because occasionally, at least in the academy for me, and this is just for me, not I don't have a locals to go to, unfortunately. I do play against a lot of really hard back row heavy decks, and then just Harpy's Feather Duster just does a nice reset. And then my go-to usually is Cosmic Cyclone, so I don't know why I was thinking Twin Twisters as the effect.
Yeah,
My
so
bad.
I also side Harpies because like there will be a match where randomly you want a Harpy's Feather Duster.
Yeah.
but I'm gonna take it out once I get 1 to 2 other cards from my actual side deck because while the card is good, like I said, Labyrinth plays around it. Fire Kings, their continuous spell can protect their field spell, so you don't actually blow up what you want to blow up.
Right.
And the other decks in the format, Centurion can play around it, which is incredibly stupid. So it doesn't do entirely everything you want it to do, but it's still a good card to have.
Yeah.
You know, one of the people I play with mostly, he plays Trap Tricks a lot, which every time he gives me an angry. Hold on.
So here's the thing about Trap Tricks. I have played Trap Tricks a lot. I've won an OTS championship using Trap Tricks too. Depending on what kind of player you're playing against and how they shotgun their effect, I'm not saying your friend is a bad player or anything. But if they shotgun some of their traps, you have a higher chance of blowing them out with something like Feather Duster. If they don't shotgun their traps, and let's say they have a set Holotea and they chain it to the Feather Duster, they can still have trap cards when your Harvey's Feather Duster resolves by
Yeah,
just doing that, or if they have a Holotea in the graveyard already, and they just use the effect to reborn and then set another one, they can still end on some trap cards after you have resolved Feather Duster again.
yeah. No, there were multiple times where I've attempted to break his board and then just failed because of stuff like that. And yet,
Yeah.
and and he knows how to play Trap Tricks. And I'm gonna play it like this. I told him I don't want to play against this Trap Tricks. This is the first deck second deck I've said that towards. And the first one was Drytron. Back when they were running Herald.
Skytron, you just flip, Dimensional Barrier against them and just smile.
Fair enough. But yeah, like it got to me. It was that deck scared me just that much because I didn't get the chance to even start most of the time because I kept losing the coin flip, basically. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's kind of how Drytron actually just performs. How the deck is good, but because of all the hits that have been getting dealt to it, other strategies involving the nature that it has, unfortunately, it is a wanting to go first deck, and it tries to lock you out of play.
I know that I was referencing his trap trick when I said that. Yes, Drytron also did like you said, it completely locks you out of play. And it got to the point where I just felt I just like I told my friend when when I was telling him about why I don't want to fight his trap tricks anymore, trap tricks specifically anymore. I literally start playing a mobile game while I play against the matchup. It's boring to me. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, but there is one thing I can give you some insight on when you go against Tretrix. Um, if you have evenly matched and Ash Blossom in your hand, you break their entire board and you stop them from setting. Just so
Gotcha.
you are aware, in case you ever play against it again. Evenly matched with an Ash Blossom is going to clear their board. Now, most players are going to keep their Sarah from evenly matched. However, when Sarah goes to activate to try to replenish what it just lost, you Ash Blossom it. So they essentially are just stuck on Sarah,
Gotcha.
and they have almost no follow up unless
Office chat.
whatever they have in their graveyard from their follow up turn.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's just so you are aware of some things you can do against that deck. Onto the extra deck though. We want at least one Entis, 2 Herald. We are going to want a Baron to 4. We are also going to want excuse me, I'm sorry. We're also probably going to want
Power Tool Braver Dragon?
no, we're probably gonna want
What?
a Chaos Angel.
Really? What's wrong with Power
Yeah,
Tool
so
Braver Dragon?
I don't know what it does.
So it ties
Let me
along with
look
the
it up.
Mikanko stuff. So when it's special summon, you can equip 3 equip spells with different names from your deck and or graveyard to this card. And it has a main phase quick effect that you can send one of the equipped spells equipped to this card to the graveyard, and target one effect monster on the field, either change its battle position or until the end of the turn negates its effects.
Yeah, this doesn't sound like a bad card. We can try it.
Yeah.
I didn't know that existed.
The one thing I'm saying is how would I be getting to level nines in that scenario? Oh yeah,
Diviner
no, I'm
Angel.
blind. I'm blind. Don't ignore me. I'm blind.
You want my glasses so that way you're not blind anymore?
I'm wearing glasses. I got 4 eyes and I'm blind. That's not a good combo.
You know what? Yeah, we can do that. I do like Power Tool Braver Dragon though as a card, but yeah, I probably agree with Herald Arc. Chaos Angel.
No, I wish I remembered
Yeah.
that Power Tool existed back when I was playing Infernoble.
So there's a couple ways we can get the Chaos Angel. The first way I was going to recommend was a card we put into the main deck, but I would probably say we cut the water level 4 Libromancer if we do this. It's called Sakitama. So you use Diviner. Diviner sends Herald. Herald adds Ben 10. You use the Ben 10 to do some of your Libromancer plays. Then what you can do is you ritual summon using the Ben 10. Ben 10 will add Sagitama. You use Sakitama's effect to reveal itself and it can normal summon itself. You will then use a Diviner who is now level 6 and a Sakitama to either go into a Baron or you can send to the graveyard and go into a Chaos Angel, and Chaos Angel can banish a card when it hits the field.
Okay, so I missed where we're summoning Herald. I missed
Oh,
that
we don't
part.
summon Herald. We normal summon Diviner of the Herald. Diviner will send a fairy from your main deck, your extra deck to the graveyard, and its level increases by the level of the set monster. So we
Yeah.
send the Herald from your extra deck to the graveyard. That Herald will trigger, adding the Ben 10 from your deck to your hand. Then you can use the Ben 10 in your hand to do any of your Libromancer plays because you now have the Ritual Monster in hand to special summon them. Then when you Ritual summon Doombroker with the Ben 10 will add Sakitama. Sakitama can normal summon itself by its own effect, and then you can use the Diviner or Herald on the field and Sakitama to go into a Baron, or if you're going second, it can go into Chaos Angel to remove a card in the field.
Yeah, I like that. Do you want to do that though?
That sounds pretty good to me too.
But by the end of the day, this is your deck. So do you want the Sakitama? The 5 synchros is probably enough that we.
Your stream died.
There it is.
What are you talking about? What the fuck?
The stream died and then fixed itself.
Yeah.
Your stream died and then fixed itself.
You do not need to repeat yourself like 3 times.
Oh, sorry. My
bad.
I'm gonna slap somebody. But yeah, that's strange that happened.
Knee, please. Anyway.
Did you say knee, please? Because I can give you my knee. But you're not gonna like
you're
one
gonna
of those.
slap me, mommy?
Oh my god! Yo, Tori, remember current Stream Goggles event ends tomorrow. So if you have of those laurel thingies, then spend them on chess now. Okay, gotcha. Thank you for reminding me. And I am listening. So, anyways, finishing off the extra deck. I think the 5.
You're gonna want a Dynamundo. You definitely want a Dynamundo.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, what links do we need? Okay, Dynamundo. I think we technically could run Cross Sheep, but then Pot of Prosperity says no for the draw.
Yeah, Pot of Prosperity does shut down Cross Sheep. You know you can run an SP Little Knight in this.
I was thinking that. SP Little Knight and then that Goddess card that he was running earlier.
Underworld Goddess. Yeah, Underworld Goddess is a good card because you can remove things like Pearly Noir. Hi, Fia.
I was thinking of the other one. What was it called?
Moon of the Closed Sky, which is made for Underworld Goddess.
Okay, say that slower.
Moon of the Closed Sky.
Okay, there we go. It's an OCG. Interesting. All right. So how would this deck link climb if it needed a link climb?
It doesn't. So it can kind of link climb a couple different ways. However, the issue with it is, let me do one thing real fast. Let me check something. Warrior, spellcaster, psychic. I'll stop, please. Thank you. Jesus. Psychic, cybers. Okay. So there is one way to link climb in a very funny way. And it can give you access code OTK lines.
Mm-hmm.
So you want Hina the Fire Charmer.
Hold on. Let me make my life. What the fuck?
It might be Hinata. I'm not sure. It's a link
It's
to
Aisha.
fire.
It's Haisha.
It's what?
Hiita. Haisha.
Oh.
Also, I had an option. I had an option for Moon of the Closed Sky if we end up using Moon.
You want
Or
Celine.
Hold on one second, please.
Celine.
Celine?
You're gonna want Celine. Yeah. SELENE or something like that.
Yeah, I remember Celine well.
And then you're gonna want access code.
Okay.
So here's how you do this line. And the reason why it's there is funny but really stupid in its own right, okay? So you use fire or the Mikanko level 3 to get into the link 2 for your fire.
Mm-hmm.
Now that link 2 can then steal your opponent's Ash Blossom, or if you're playing against any Snake Eye decks or any Fire King decks, you can take into their Fire Monster. You use that Fire Monster and your link 2 to go into Celine, and as long as you know there's 3 or more spells in the field or either grave, Celine will get 3 counters plus. You use Celine to reborn the Mikanko Water Monster because it's a spellcaster. You then use Celine and that monster to go into access code. Access code now goes up to a 5300 attack with at least 2 pops.
Another card that I would actually maybe run is IP Masquerena. Because, sneaky shit.
Oh yeah, you could.
Yeah.
In terms of link 1s you can always run Stalmagrate Mirage if you want to. Actually, wait. We there's one thing we got to factor in. We're siding super polys.
Yes.
We got to put in super poly targets. So take out 1 Herald.
Really?
Yeah, I don't like the option that we're doing it. It's either we take out Herald or we take out Underworld Goddess and IP Masquerade. Because we're gonna need at least 2 to 3 spots for the super poly targets.
All right, and what's the super poly targets again? Because I can never remember.
You want Mud Dragon?
That's Muddy Dragon. There we go.
Yeah. And you want Garua, GARUR.
There we go. I found it.
Yeah, you definitely want those 2. There's a third one you can use, but it's only really good against the Snake Eyes Fire King matchup.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not gonna give you that one unless he's gonna be playing against that a lot. These are the 2 generically best super poly targets. because it hit almost everything.
Almost everything.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna be started. I'm gonna be making Fire Kings down the road because Fire Kings has always been my favorite deck. So that's down the
That's
road.
fair. That is fair. Are you happy with the design that we came up with, putting everything together and how it all synergizes well together?
Synergizes really well.
I will save this file and I can send it to you. That way, you can play test it and try it out.